So now we are going to have a look into the skin settings. I'm trying to grab the color from this image here, and I will go for it would be better to have a texture. When it comes to the subsurface scattering settings, it can be quite time consuming. Some are more time consuming than others. I like to go with the deprecated one, the physical SSS. Fine-tune that, it would be good to test it with the light shining right behind the ears, for example. It would be good to test that with the hair as well at that stage. But yeah, this is just for a first impression and to see how the fur looks like. Keep it between a level of 0.5 and 0.6 as the roughness value. That's roughly what skin is about. There's the multi-scattering options, which will drive your rendering times insane. Just test rendering how different the different modes look like. But yeah, it's taking forever, so I want to go for like a quick solution because the whole thing will be covered in fur anyway. And I must say I like what we had in the beginning the most. So I will right click it and convert it to default values. So now I want to check how that looks like with our fur shader and fur combined. So I will relink everything to my render mesh. See how it looks like in combination. This way we have to deal with the clumping difference. So here I created a mesh version of it so we can start on grooming the tail itself. And my plan is to just basically build it in this pose and then transfer it over later. And I will just copy the legs over and create a tail version of it. We'll just follow the structure of the neck and we'll just have a guide set and then just scatter our hair from there. So we will create with the guide set. Make sure to set this up to our new mesh. So we will start to create a group attribute that basically grabs all the tail. And it's similar to the and then make sure it's a point group. And from there we can assign it a color and another color for the group. And then we will just color the group and write out the color information as a float attribute. Just make sure you're just writing out a singular float instead of a 3 float. So we will need to grab the color R information instead of the whole color information. I just try to find out why this is not scattering any hair. And it's because we misspelled the density attribute. Let's see, there we go. And then we can increase the length. And the same go. This is just for our guides, keep that in mind. We'll make them a lot thicker and we can probably use a lot less guides than we have currently there. The next step here and then I will use a guide groom with a guide input and just sculpt them into the shape of the reference. Can be quite tricky, especially for three-dimensional object like this. So I will just switch camera perspective quite often and just try to roughly match it. It doesn't have to match 100% because we're not trying to match a reference 100% here. But yeah, if you would have tasks to match something 100%, you most likely have a scan set where you can import the images and then just go for the shapes. This looks far too big. What I want to achieve with the interpolation here is to have hair growing from all different sides of the tail. I don't want to see through the tail. So it's important to have like a very relaxed interpolation there with a huge amount. Sometimes you can up the amount of guides a lot compared, like in the density compared to the body, for example. I did something similar for a squirrel that I was grooming, and yeah, it's quite difficult to build characters like that where you can look directly onto the skin. And here I will turn the length down a little bit more. So right now we are already in the hair section, and I will grab all of what we're creating here in the hair section and put it into a different SOP later on. I'm just so used into to working in one SOP that I don't want to like jump between SOPs all the time. And here I will start to create a hair clump. You can see they have like quite a distinct pattern going on there that I want to recreate, but it's very difficult. You don't want to see all the way up to the skin of the tail. And if you combine that with a guide mask, for example, what I'm trying to do here, it will look a little bit unnatural. So yeah, it almost looks like feathers at this stage, which we don't want, so like a pine cone. And yeah, we'll try to fine tune that a little bit more. But yeah, it's obviously very tricky to get it right here. We'll try to add more variation with a bend node. And here I will try to experiment more with a lift. Especially with a negative lift, you can see that the hair, that it's slightly drooping down. So I want to test if I can get the same effect. Also, the resolution of the guides is not too high, so I will resample them here, which slows down everything quite a lot. Just double checking if everything looks still okay. I'm trying to make it look less like a Christmas tree here. And it still looks too big, so I will reduce the size with a lengthen out. And I still want to achieve the same shape that we can see on the reference. So I will go over the settings once more. And add a little bit variation in the curl modifier with our randomized clump ID function. So now we have even more variation on it. I'm testing different settings with the blend attribute, but I like the version we had first, so I will reconvert that to what we had previously. And I will create two different streams here. One with a very clumped version and one with a more interpolated version. And then I will merge both of them and maybe add a little bit more variation later on. But yeah, here I like the look that we're creating here. And you have to be careful to not see the skin. It's quite a lot of hair too, so it will be super slow. And yeah, we'll reduce the amount of hair a little bit. That it's probably too much. Something like this would be good. And then I will also touch the width a little bit more here. But yeah, my issue with this is that I still want to read the shapes, but I don't want like a super interpolated version as well. So it's quite tricky to get the right look here.